Welcome to the Journey Podcast, where we showcase some of the most inspiring stories on the face of the planet and life lessons that come along the way. So today I have the honor and privilege of bringing someone who I met recently on a TV station, and her name is Alexia Gonzalez. And I'm so happy to have you on with us today. There's so much that we can unpack here. And for those of you who don't know Alexia, she's an entrepreneur. She's a content creator, influencer, storyteller, just this incredible dynamic soul that has so many moving parts, so many elements to her story. And I'm just really excited to have you on here with us today. So thank you for gracing our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting as I was going and doing my research behind your story and just what you're about and everything like that. It was kind of hard to box you into like one thing. Even with all of these titles, it doesn't even quite encompass everything that you do and everything that you're involved in. But one of the things that I love just about your personality is you just have this very vibrant essence to you. You have just a really awesome way of going about everything that you do, and just going about it with grace and class. And for anybody who tunes into your social media, they'll see exactly why I say that. But if you don't mind, I'd love to go a little bit in depth in terms of your backstory. I know you're originally from Florida. So
Yes.
if you can give us a little bit about your family life, your childhood, and all of that good stuff.
Of course. Well, first of all, it was so exciting to meet you. We met on Bloom TV as Josh is a contributor on air, and it was just a really fun, organic meeting. I'm pretty sure my mom attacked you. She's like, oh my God, he's so handsome.
She's amazing.
And so shout out to my mom for the connection. Sometimes it gets like tough breaking that ice when you meet other creators and other influencers. You never know. And
of course.
So when someone is as down to earth and cool as you, it's awesome. It makes it easy to connect and collaborate, which is the essence of what we do. And I like to say collaboration is a big part of why I'm here. And now I have my own business and I'm doing what I do. But I grew up with my parents in the media themselves. So my mom and dad were both in the Hispanic broadcast industry. So from a young age, I was doing telenovelas, I was doing acting, commercials. I was an entertainment reporter on a show at 15. So I started really young. I had a pop single with Cheyenne, who's a Puerto Rican pop star. He was on the soap opera I was on. I did a little role in it. And then I was like, hey, I sing. And they created a song for me. I worked with Sony Records. It was on the Billboard, the Latin pop charts for a couple of months. So it was like my Hannah Montana moment when I was 15. That was really exciting. But I grew up in that for my whole life. So storytelling was a big aspect of what I did. But by the time I hit college, I was like, I don't want to be a starving artist. I need to, have a more legitimate leg to stand on, which I don't know. I feel like that corporate mindset was just starting to flood in at a young age. Yeah. And so I shifted to marketing and started to like delve into that side of things. And so I graduated with my master's from Florida State University in communications and integrated media studies with a focus on multicultural marketing. Mm-hmm. So I really got to dive in as a Latina myself into the aspects that go into marketing to Hispanics, and the fact that we're not just like a homogeneous population. You have to target us as subcultures and all of that. So it was really interesting to get the insight and all of that in college and then start my career in marketing. I started in travel PR with an agency, and I started representing brands like Hard Rock International, Marriott, Blue Diamond, Party City. And that's when I started to be able to integrate the love for storytelling and creating content that I did as a young girl into like the marketing strategy savvy of it all. And I made my way back on camera for clients to do like segments and media training, and working with Hard Rock International. I was traveling the world doing hotel press trips, grand openings. I opened the Hard Rock Guitar Hotel in Fort Lauderdale and was there with Jennifer Lopez and DJ Khaled, was on set with their commercial that was like the Super Bowl. So it was really neat to be on that side of the field and learning all the strategy in that. But then it made me realize how much I wanted to be a brand myself. And I was like, I wanted to get out of the box, out of that corporate cubicle. And then once you start kind of going off of, that agency mindset and doing things on your own, they start to think, okay, maybe you aren't the best employee. You're not having that corporate team mindset. And that's when I realized, all right, I need to start doing my own thing. Yeah. And then I took all that experience and all those amazing connections that I made and started my own agency, the Gala Group. And through that, I now do my own hosting, my own PR, my own content creation, and all of that great stuff. But it was just amazing to be able to take all of that and now do it for myself, but have that training. And I call it PR communications boot camp because I did so much, and it taught me that communications is such a broad spectrum that you can't box yourself in as a communicator. You have to be able to touch a lot of different points, whether it's the event, the brand awareness, the content creation, the social media marketing. There's just so much that goes into being a strong storyteller.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's incredible.
Thank
That's
you.
as I mentioned, there's just so much to that we can unpack here, and so many different rabbit holes that we can go down.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Mm.
Were you like destined to be this star? Did your family kind of like get in your head, like she's our bright star and she's the star of the family, and she's gonna go off to be the famous one? And also just your child. Were you the only child? Where does this sort of I don't want to call it a character, but just Alexia, the star, where does that come from?
It's like you pinpointed it correctly. Yes, I'm an only child.
Okay,
And
got it.
my mom, I think because she was in that industry, and my dad as well, they were, well, it was my stepdad who was in the media industry. I actually have no relationship with my biological dad. I don't know where he is at this point. And I think that relationship, when I was younger, he lived in like I don't want to say like the ghetto, but like the more impoverished parts of Miami. And then I would spend the weekends with my mom in like the really nice neighborhoods of Miami. So I got this really, I think, interesting balance of a childhood that has helped me be like, I have the street smarts and all of that, but then also the ability to have had this wonderful upbringing where I traveled the world, had amazing connections through my parents being in the media industry. So I think that makes me a bit of a chameleon. Like I'm able to adapt to any situation and any environment that I'm in, really, as a professional, as a marketer, and just as a human, which I think is a strength of mine. But yeah, I grew up as an only child. My mom was the Kris Jenner of it all, like pushing me. She wanted me to be like Taylor Swift, like taking me to the auditions. I started doing musical theater when I was like 10. So skipping school to go to rehearsals and all of that was like a common thing. And then starting with the telenovelas, I was being pulled out of school a lot. I struggled with friendships actually quite a bit because my focus was like really on trying to make this career happen, and kids were like hating on me at school. I would come to class like covered in blood because I was doing a vampire soap opera, and I would be on set all night, and then at 7 a.m. go to high school and take my classes, and eventually I got kicked out of that school. So I struggled with like a bit of being like a black sheep, and being independent from a young age, which I think made me strong, but also having that mom that was like, you're a star, baby girl, you can do whatever you want. And I think that's so important too,
cool.
instilling that confidence and that like mindset that you can do whatever if you really set your mind to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's beautiful. I think it's important to have that support along the way, just to have someone that believes in you.
Yeah.
And it's just so validating as a child to just have someone constantly like tell you you're enough, tell you that you're special, tell you that you're gonna make it. And I would say that if there's anything that I kind of grew up like you, with a mom and a stepfather. I didn't have my biological father in my life. And
Oh, wow.
yeah. So
Daddy issues.
yeah, exactly. But and it's interesting that you mentioned that, because it took years of soul searching and healing to end up coming to the realization that I struggled with a lot of abandonment issues, and
Me too.
I was pursuing success. It was never enough for me. I always had to seek more and more and more. And it was like a double-edged sword, because on one side of the spectrum, you attain all these things and you get all the accolades and everything like that. But on the other side of the spectrum, it's like, it's still never enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And would you say just not having your biological father's participation throughout your life, did it have any effect on you whatsoever?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I actually, I work a lot with Casa Pinellas, which is a nonprofit organization for domestic violence. As my mom actually endured domestic violence at the hands of my dad quite a bit. And to some instances that I like remember being part of it. And that has fueled a lot of my desire to succeed and be independent. And even as a married woman, I've been in a relationship for almost 12 years now. Hell. But married 1 year as of last weekend.
Nice.
But like, it's important to me that my husband understands that I'm self-sufficient, I'm independent. Like I need to be able to do my own thing and make my own money. But on the other side, he sometimes is like, is it ever enough? Like all these things that you're doing, you're hitting these goals that you had years ago and now they're coming to fruition. And I'm like, wait, I feel stuck. I feel stagnant. And he's like, why? Why can't you just take in the moment and like enjoy and marinate in your success instead of always chasing the next thing? And I think it's interesting that you bring that up. The abandonment might be a source of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many different ways to channel it. Unfortunately, some people they channel it into a toxic tendencies, toxic behavior,
Oh yeah.
self-sabotage. You oftentimes see that. But then you have people who may be type A personalities that they'll go out and they'll just put all of their focus on their work, right? But then you end up hitting this wall as you start to get all these things, you realize that it's not all what you thought it would be. You
Right.
get to the peak to then realize that there's just another peak, and it's
What is the peak?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, I know for me, my specific experience with my biological father is he ended up passing away at 43 years old,
Oh wow, I'm
and
sorry to hear.
I appreciate that. And one thing that I do wish is that I did have a relationship with him now, like as a father,
Mm.
with 3 little boys. It would have been amazing to have him just to even seek counsel.
Yeah, I can't
And
imagine.
yeah, and that's when it really hit me more than anything. Do you feel like if you had the option to have a good relationship with your father, you would go that route?
Interesting. My husband asked me this the other day when we were looking back at our wedding, because obviously he wasn't a part of it. But because there was like that toxic aspect to it where there was abuse, he had a stroke when I was 8 years old, and we were in the car driving, and he was actually trying to take me away from my mom, take me out of the country, out of
Uh,
their like legal agreements, and do something sketchy. And he had an aneurysm in the car.
wow,
And like to
wow,
this day, that was like when karma, like I realized that karma is a thing. And he was paralyzed on the right side. And to this day, I've been told that I wouldn't know, but that he's still in that condition, living in a halfway home somewhere in Miami, like
yeah,
really not doing well. And that to me speaks to the kind of person continues those behaviors, stays in their own way.
yeah,
As you had mentioned, like people who go down toxic path, like I definitely struggled with some things living in Miami and being like, I stopped talking to my dad when I was like 14, 15.
got it.
So at that point, I was like, I just want to rebel. Like, I just want to go out, and got my first fake ID. I was like 13. I was
Wow,
hitting the nightclubs. I was going a little crazy to the
wow,
point where my mom was like, are you good? Like, are you going to be
yeah,
okay? And I think I got to a point where I had to like hit rock bottom. I got kicked out of school. It was all around the same time that I was acting and singing too. So it was kind of a wild upbringing, and I was a little loco until like 16, 17, and then realized like, hey, you've got to snap out of this. And
yeah,
that's when I got on this real path of like pursuing my studies and education. And shortly after I met my husband, it's
mhm,
like I feel like you manifest those things when you realize yourself what you need from the
of
universe.
course,
But to this day, yeah, I wonder where my dad is. I wish we had a relationship that was positive, because I definitely feel that void in my life. Like I lean towards relationships with men a lot too.
yeah,
I don't have too many friendships because I've always like kind of kept to myself in that way, even though ironically I'm so
yeah,
extroverted and put
yeah,
myself out there so much. I tend to keep a small circle.
mm,
And I think all of those abandonment issues are part of it. But I hope where he is, he's okay, and that he would be proud of me if he saw the things that I was doing.
absolutely,
And I mean, one day would be wonderful to reconnect on a positive note, so that
yeah.
when I have kids, they can know their
Yeah.
grandpa.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, and
Of
even the
course.
vulnerability and everything. And
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to hear that side of things, because sometimes people may look at our lives and they look at it from the outside. And social media is very surface. Like we just show people our highlight reels.
Yep.
We never really expose
That's
our
a good
soft
way to put it.
underbelly, the aspects of our side, our shadow, the aspects of ourselves that we don't want people to know.
Right.
And I wanted to ask you too, as it pertains to just your background. I know you kind of mingle in a lot of high societies from time to time.
I
I
try.
would say. So as so do I, and I remember just the conversation of like my parents and what they do would kind of pop up, and for you, when that happens, like people, oh, what do your parents do, or like I'm not sure if you have ever had that. Do you just kind of talk about your mom and stepfather as your parents, or do you just kind of leave the other aspect of your life outside? Yeah,
100%. I do think sometimes I like to shed light on like the fact that I had both sides of the fence, and
yeah,
like that, like I get it. I'm not like just I went to that school that I got kicked out of was one of Miami's top private schools. And to this day, I'm like, Mom, why would you ever pay that much money to send me to school? And then I got kicked out.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it was that Miami, I think, like lifestyle growing up in that, like, that's why I left, quite frankly. Like, what car do you drive? What brands are you wearing?
Of
Like,
course.
what do your parents do? Like, oh, daddy does this. And it's
Yeah.
like all this nepotism
Yep.
and things like that. So I liked to distance myself from that because I was like in the private school with all these privileged kids, also privileged myself to a degree, but also knowing every other weekend, like what was happening in other people's lives and other socioeconomic standings. So I think that helped me quite a bit. But yeah, I definitely would just say, yeah, my mom and my dad, even though my stepdad to this day, I call him Dad J,
Yeah.
his name's
Yeah.
Joe. I could never fully call him dad, but Dad J has just always been,
Love it.
the
Yeah.
name. But like he walked me down the aisle
Love it.
last year and
Um,
it was really wonderful. He's been there all my life. When my dad had the stroke, I'll never forget him walking to my dad's hospital bed and saying, anything you need financially, we're here to help you.
that's beautiful.
So, I will always love him like he's
Wow.
my dad and admire that. And yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I do kind of swipe everything else under the rug in most circumstances, but I'm not afraid or ashamed of that background in any
Yeah.
way.
That's so beautiful. Shout out to Dad Jay, by the
Yeah,
way.
Dad Jay,
Yes.
we love
Yes.
you. It was his birthday yesterday,
Yeah,
Monday.
stepfathers can be truly be heroes in the world. And my stepfather, he had a major influence on my life because
It's
most
beautiful.
of the kids that I grew up with were fatherless and were also just abandoned like myself. But I was fortunate enough for my mom to get with my stepfather and for me to have that masculine presence in my life just was everything for me to have someone to show up to my football games,
Yeah.
to have someone show me how to even defend myself and how to carry myself. And
Yeah.
yeah, and just having that sense of security
And
have,
treat women how
and how
you
to
clearly
exactly.
have an amazing wife, an amazing
Yeah, yeah,
family. So
yeah.
clearly you know how to treat a
Absolutely.
woman. That's so
Absolutely.
important, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of my discipline as well had originally came from seeing my stepdad go off to work, and he never even woke up to an alarm clock. Like he'd show up every single day, never complained once.
Wow.
And I'd see him like clean up, our home, and he was very involved in that. He played with us. So like a lot of the way he went about his parenting style, it just kind of I took the best of what I can get. He wasn't perfect by no means, but I most certainly took the best out of it. But it's such a blessing that you still have him as a father figure, even at this stage in your life. It's
Oh, yeah.
incredible.
I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for him, and he was very corporate mindset my entire life watching him grow up, like you said, you watched your stepdad. Like, Joe was he was the CFO of this broadcast network, so he was working till 10 PM every night, just, like, super career focused, and then ironically, a few years ago, he was forced to retire because of his age,
Wow.
and that was, like, such a blow on him, and around that time was when I decided to start my own business because I realized, like, these corporations don't care about
Yeah.
you. You
Very
could
true.
give your life for 25
Yep.
years. He took the company public and rang the NASDAQ bell.
Wow.
And they gave him like, okay, yeah, here's like, you can sit on the board and here's like your little annual, but like he gave his whole life. And so I watched that and I wanted that corner office. I wanted to be the executive biatch, like
Mhm.
at the company. And then seeing how he was treated, it was
Yeah.
like, no, I want to work for myself.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's crazy. You're so many years building someone else's dreams,
Exactly.
and it's you. At the end of the day, you're really just a number to turn profits, and it's
Yeah.
unfortunate, but that's just what it is. And it's interesting. I had a client reach out to me yesterday. He had worked for a Fortune 10 company for almost 20 years, and literally got let go yesterday
Oh my
and
God.
has a family, everything like that, and a beautiful lifestyle. But you can only imagine having to replace that income and the pressure that comes with,
Oh my
right? So,
God. Yeah.
yeah, and I just believe that the idea of security is a facade. It's even if you work for government, right? Or a prestigious company, there's no such thing as the most secure thing is for you to go out and really pursue your dreams and at least take a chance on it.
I agree
Right?
with that.
For sure. Who was your biggest inspiration
Oh,
growing
interesting.
up? Yeah.
I think honestly, my mom
Mm,
really, because just seeing everything that she did, and she worked at that broadcast company, and then she left when she married my stepdad because he was a CFO and it was a conflict. And then she started her own agency. So it was really interesting to see that she was able to pivot, come from a relationship of abuse, where also during that divorce, my dad did everything he could to like financially screw her over.
wow.
She was like paying his credit card debt to this day, which is crazy because she was like the bread maker. She was earning the money. She had the good career. And so just seeing that she was able to pivot and be so self-sufficient and independent and create something on her own was really something I always looked up to.
Wow.
So I think, yeah, definitely my mom. And now I have my own agency. She helps me on projects too.
That's
Like
awesome.
some clients that she works with, I work with too. So we kind of go back and forth like that. So it's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can tell like just you guys have a really, really awesome relationship. It's almost like a sisterly relationship too.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is incredible. I think that's what anybody would want with a parent, especially at this stage in your life.
Yeah.
So talk to me about your relationship with your husband, if you don't mind. You
Mhm.
guys have over a decade together, same with my wife and I.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
And
that.
yeah, so we've been together over 15 years, but we've been married. We just made 10 years. So it's been
Wow.
exciting and interesting and a wild adventure, ups and downs and all kinds of crazy stuff. But in terms of your relationship, how is it navigating with that? Because because you're entrepreneurial, I know that entrepreneurship tends to bring out more of a masculine side of a woman, especially when you're in survival mode or when
Interesting.
you're out there just really pushing and grinding and working to pay your own bills and be self-sufficient.
Oh, yeah.
How has that affected, or has it had any effect at all, like with your personal relationship?
Oh, 100%. I think it's something that draws us together is the fact that I like to call him my rock and I'm the kite. Like
I
I
love it.
move around and he
Yeah,
kind of holds me steady. But
that's amazing.
before we had met, I was never attracted to like I guess being Hispanic, the Latino, like
Hmm.
machismo. That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
always like, no, I can't be with someone like
Of
that.
course.
I need to be with someone who will not dim my light, will
Yeah,
help shine it.
absolutely.
And so meeting Mike, we actually met on Tinder
Wow.
at 2 in the morning at Florida State, in a parking lot. Well, we decided to meet in this parking lot because I was like, I don't want him to know where I live. So we met
Yeah.
in a parking lot. And after that night, that was it. But we also did long distance for about 2.5 years when I was starting my career in Miami and he's from Tallahassee, where
Mm,
Florida State is. And I was like, I got to leave Tallahassee. I can't stay here. It's too small for me. And he understood. And I went away and we, kept that going. We would meet in different cities around the world because I was
wow.
traveling a lot for work. So one weekend I was like, hey, I got to be in Switzerland for work. If you don't meet me, like we're done. And
Yeah.
he booked a flight when we were in Switzerland and
Wow.
just different things like that. So I think that was a really special way to keep the relationship alive. And then also him seeing like, damn, okay, she's like bringing this to the table. And he's an environmental scientist. So it's couldn't be more left brain, right.
Yeah, for sure.
But because of his work, he actually has to fly drones.
Mm,
So when I started getting into the content creation of it all, he was like, hey, I can fly these
that is
drones to
awesome.
help
Yeah,
you
that's
get
really cool.
content. So that's helped me a lot as a creator and, someone who's a micro influencer, be able to connect with hotels and brands in a way that I have this ability to capture the drone footage that's
Yeah,
given me like quite a good leg up. So I'm very grateful to him. And because of that, we started doing more work together and he
love it.
does things on the side now with the Gala Group agency, which is my company. And he likes that. He likes being able to like contribute and
That's
also
cool.
have his thing on the side. But it's been really positive in that way that he can also dive into it and be part of it. And it's
Yeah.
not all just like, hey, will you take this picture of me? Like, because at first he was like, is this all it's going to be? Like,
Yeah.
me just taking pictures of you at restaurants? I'm like, no, like, we will make this into something. And I think he sees that vision and respects the fact that
Mm,
I've made something out of nothing on my own.
yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
What would you say if you had to give any piece of advice? Because I think you're quite qualified after 10 plus years of being together.
Cheers.
What would be your piece of advice for young people? Because a lot of young people have given up on the idea of marriage.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, you know what, this is like archaic. It's like, it doesn't make any sense, and it's not beneficial for my life, and I'm too busy for it, or whatever the case may be. What piece of advice would you give someone who probably has given up on the idea of marriage?
Well, I mean, I would say you have to do what comes true to you. Like I'm right now, my best friend is going through a breakup. She was engaged. And it was actually both of my best friends and they have separated. This engagement I had a big part of planning it. Like it's just been really tough to see, but I'm glad that it happened now
Mhm.
because had they been married,
Yeah.
the stakes are much higher. So I think take your time. Like there's no need to rush or be on somebody else's timeline. Again, I was with Mike for 10 years and I was the one who's delaying the
Yeah.
the engagement because I just
Sure.
wanted to take my time. And as a woman, there's so much pressure on your biological clock, having kids. That's something we don't know if we
Yeah.
want kids. We're not quite sure yet. Conversation we actually had this weekend, like, hey, we don't know. We'll check back in like a year or two
Yeah.
and see how we
Sure.
feel about it. And that's
Love
okay.
that.
And much like marriage, like it's okay if you don't feel the need to do the traditional
Yep.
wedding of it all. But I think being together and and having that respect for one another is the most important thing. It's like, if you're not going to get married and have the legal document, like have the respect for one another. And,
Of course.
like, I think I'm all about openness and doing you, but like if you're doing like 3 people, 4 people in a relationship, youngsters, I know people are doing it nowadays.
Mhm.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's if you throw a third person into the mix, there's going to be chaos.
Very, very true.
So that's a piece of advice that I'm seeing through other
Yeah.
people's
Yeah.
relationships.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I've had some discussions with people who sort of like engage in that lifestyle. And
Yeah.
I just think long term, it's not sustainable for your overall just well-being long term, especially if you want to have a family and
Oh,
be
yeah.
grounded and you're just kind of all over the place. And it's already a lot just dealing with one person.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah.
And compromising, which is such a big
Yeah,
part, being
yeah,
able to negotiate, being able to be flexible in yourself and your desires. And
yeah.
that's something I've learned about myself. I'm an introverted extrovert, I like to say,
Mm.
kind of touched on it
Same here.
earlier.
Yeah.
I need to recharge alone.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I do it. Whereas I know I have a lot of friends that need to be around a lot of other people, and that's how
Sure.
they get their energy. Thankfully,
Yeah.
Mike is the same as I am, that
Mhm.
we understand like we need to separate for a few
Yeah.
hours and then come back together. And I think that's really healthy to understand those kinds of like
Yeah.
love languages, I guess, like how your other partner has to recharge
Of
and cope,
course.
and be able to like respect that. And if that's not how you are, then make your own plans, go to yoga with friends, like
Yeah.
be able to have that balance and not be codependent on one another. 'Cause-
Absolutely. I love the fact that you guys also came together and just agreed, like, yeah, right now the whole children thing, may not be for us, but we'll see how we'll circle back around in a year from now. And
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful because a lot of people, like you said, they feel like they have this biological clock that they have to go by, and there's so much pressure around that.
Yeah.
They have their parents nagging them, like,
Oh,
hey, I'm
yeah.
my grandchild.
100%.
Yeah.
You want to give
Of
people
course.
grandchildren and all that, but I'm personally terrified of
Yeah.
kids and having kids, and
It's
like
not easy.
birthing a
It is
kid
not easy.
scares the life out of
Yeah.
me. Just the act of pregnancy,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around that quite yet.
For sure.
But everyone's different. My best friend just had a baby, and she's like thriving
Mm.
as a mother in her motherhood era, and it's so beautiful to see that.
Yeah, I love that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about some of your early dreams that you had. And, things have obviously evolved for you. They've gone in different paths or whatever. I'm sure you may have had a dream at some point in time, maybe to go all in and be maybe a world famous singer or a world famous actress, right?
Yeah.
How has that evolved for you? And also, have you gotten closure on like just leave, or did you leave it all together and just say, you know what, this is not for me anymore. I'm going to go out and pursue something that's maybe a little similar to it, but not quite that. Where do you stand with that when it comes to like your own personal dreams that you probably have had, and how have they evolved over the years?
Yeah, I love that, because I do like to say that what I'm doing now kind of lends itself
Yeah.
to those dreams that I had of like being a pop star and a
Yeah.
superstar. And yeah, I mean, I was really on that track. When I was little, doing a lot of that heavily, and TV shows and the music and all that. Like, you couldn't find my song on Apple Music still.
Oh,
I'll
nice.
send you the link. And
Yeah.
there's like a music video for it.
Really?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm definitely going to check it out.
It was full blown. We were like really committed to
Wow.
trying to see if we can make it happen. And then I was like 13, 14 at this time. So then agents and producers started coming into play. And then I started hearing people say like, oh, you need to lose weight. And I'm
Mhm.
14.
Wow.
Like, it started becoming that part of it. And that's when I think also rebelled in many ways, with the daddy issues coming to surface as like a 14, 15-year-old. And that's when I kind of just like broke out and like needed to rebel and went a little crazy. I was sneaking out of the house,
Wow.
going out, doing a lot of crazy stuff. And I think it took a moment to like realize like, okay, maybe this is you understanding that this like artist dream isn't exactly for you. I think I have an addictive personality. I have a really impulsive personality. I don't think I would have been a healthy like superstar or anything like that. You never know. And so maybe the universe was guiding me out of that path for a reason. And I started noticing a lot of toxicity along with losing weight, like producers trying to like give me drugs and things like that. And I'm so young. It's
Yeah.
like, what's going to happen if you
Of
stay in this?
course.
So that's, around that time in college is when I realized like, how do I stay in this communication storytelling aspect, but then have like a really successful career that's legitimate in the eyes of society, and not
Yeah.
just like maybe be a semi-famous
Of course,
singer,
of course.
actress struggling.
Yeah.
So that's when I went into the marketing. And that's when I was like, I want to follow in Dad J's footsteps and have that corporate
Mhm.
mindset, have the corner office in New York City. Like I wanted to be in New York City so badly. And then I finally went to New York to do some job interviews and I was like, fuck New York
Yeah.
City. Like I
Yeah, yeah,
could never live here. It's
yeah,
terrifying.
yeah.
And I've had some crazy New York stories of people I've met, like super
Oh, yeah,
famous people. And like,
absolutely.
there's just magic there that, isn't anywhere else. But then also, I think a lot of like anxiety producing situations and environments that for me, like as a Florida girl, I need to be able to roam and
Of course.
have space and be able to look at the ocean and
Yeah.
connect in that kind of way with nature. Whereas a city like New York or LA, I felt like I wanted to be there so bad, but I could never bring myself to going there.
Yeah.
So part of me does wish I had the balls
Mhm.
to have done that. And I do tell people who are younger, like my cousin's starting college now, I'm like, go as far as you can, like Billy Madison when he shakes the kid's head.
Yeah.
He's like, "Go stay as long as you can."
Yeah.
Like, do what you can to expand your horizons at a young age
Mm.
because you never know when you'll have the opportunity, especially when you have your parents' cash flow
Yeah.
helping you. Like,
Of course.
take that all the way
Mhm.
and jump and take those opportunities that make you uncomfortable because you're gonna look back and only regret those moments that maybe like, "Damn, I should have tried that," and not the things that you did try.
That's so true.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, so I wish, part of me wishes I would have done that a little bit more, but I'm so thankful that today I can be on air, do TV, do content, and be a creator and a storyteller in my own way and not be controlled by like any corporate entities or
Absolutely.
men telling me I'm fat.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. When was this shift for you? Because I remember when I had that corporate mindset, it was during my college journey as well. And I would say like a year or two after college, I just realized that, yeah, this is the people who work in these professions oftentimes are very miserable. I
Yeah.
had no idea, like, we tend to take on this idea of success that it's the corner office and going to work with the
The
briefcase
college
and
degree, like you
yeah,
have to
college
have it. You
degree.
don't have to have it.
Exactly. When was your epiphany where you said, you know what, this is for the birds? Like, I'm not participating in this. I'm going to unplug from this matrix.
It took me a
Bec-
little
Yeah.
longer than you. It was when I was deep in the PR
Mm.
career of it all because the first couple of years I was like so about it. I was hungry. I was working way more than I should have, getting paid like 35 grand, but like traveling on weekends to California, staying in a motel just to like go see a client and like show face and wear a little short dress and like be the pretty PR girl. That's when I was like, whoa, this is a matrix. Like
Mhm.
we weren't allowed to wear black. We had to always wear like colors. We had to put our hair up anytime we saw clients. I had to like lie about my age, just like things like that too, because the client's always
Yeah.
right to appease the
Yeah.
client. And then more and more, I started noticing the client was a creepy old guy
Yeah.
who was
Yeah.
like trying to see
Crazy.
what he can get away with
Yeah.
type of thing. Obviously, that wasn't every circumstance, but
Sure.
I have like crazy stories. Like I opened the Hard Rock Hotel in Atlantic City. We did a crazy press trip. We had a bunch of celebrities and magazines, and I had an editor of an international magazine like proposition me for a threesome with his
Mm.
wife at the hotel
Yeah.
that I was PRing, and like
Yeah.
I was like, no, no, just
Yeah.
here to get your jacket. Like I was in their room, and so
Uh,
I was like, oh my god, I'm being put in these situations. And when I would tell my higher ups, they would just be like, yeah,
mm,
client's always right. If they're giving you another shot of tequila, just kind of throw it back. Like,
yeah.
so I was like, okay, well, this is a little crazy.
Yeah.
And I realized that the things that I was doing for clients for like $0, I could do for myself and not
That
give
part.
the agency
Yeah.
the finder's fee that they were getting. So yeah, it was actually around COVID when I
Yeah.
had that realization and took the time to, we all had that time, thankfully, to
Get grounded.
get grounded. So I was able to start setting like the bones for my own business and my own thing. And then I actually left that agency to work at the Dali Museum in St.
Mhm.
Pete.
Oh,
So
nice.
when I moved to St. Pete, I was like, I want to try something else, the social media of it. So I led their social. And
Nice.
that was
That's really
really,
cool.
it was awesome. And that's why, fun fact, the Gala life, Salvador Dali's wife is Gala.
Gala. Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
she inspired the name, the Gala life. And that's kind of been the umbrella for my brand. She was just
Wow.
like the badass female.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it
It's
was,
interesting you say that. Not to cut you off,
no,
but it just came to mind. One of my really good friends in New York City, he was a big Salvatore Dali fan, and he named his daughter Gala as well.
oh
I
my
think that's
God.
that's
I
how,
would have,
he had tattoos of the artwork and everything all over him,
oh my
and named his
God.
daughter Gala. That's how extreme it was for him.
I have
Like,
chills.
yeah,
So he
yeah,
feels me because
yeah,
she's
yeah.
like a remarkable woman.
Oh, she was his muse.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so, wow, your
Yeah.
friend's
Yeah.
awesome.
Right. No, it's a really cool aspect of your brand. I love that.
A lot of people don't
Yeah.
realize it. They think it's like something to do with galas
Yeah,
or
that's what I
partying.
thought.
So I
Yeah.
try to tie it into like storytelling, worth
Mhm.
celebrating, because I think everybody's story is worth
Yeah.
celebrating and every moment in life is worth
Yeah.
celebrating. So it's just been nice that I got to like create this brand entity out of like parts of my life.
That's
And it's not
beautiful.
just like Alexia in Tampa.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
For sure.
yeah.
On the topic of Gala, you have your podcast, The Gala Vision,
Yes.
and I'm really excited to talk about this aspect of your journey because podcasting there's like a whole revolution right now
Oh yeah.
happening all over the World Wide Web, and it's exciting. There's just so many exciting elements to podcasting. And why did you embark on podcasting specifically?
I mean, you're right. I feel like everybody has a podcast
Yeah,
and it's not easy.
it's
People
not.
think
It's
it's
not.
easy and that like everyone should start a podcast. If you want a
Yeah,
podcast, start it. But there's so much work that goes into it, into making it the right way. I mean,
yeah,
the setup that you have right now is like
yeah,
Hollywood level
yeah,
compared. I'm set up in my little studio and have my microphone, my professional
yeah.
microphone. But for me, I really, doing what I do as a storyteller in Tampa Bay, I have grown to realize that community is the most important thing,
Of course.
especially with as a micro influencer. It's not about the following, it's about the community that I've been able to build. And people really want to hear the authenticity and the storytelling and what you do every day. And it took me a while to really like imposter syndrome. I always felt like, who's going to care about what I'm talking
Yeah,
about on a day to day
yeah,
basis? Like, let me just stick to posting reels, you know. But then I realized like people are interested in the story and the behind the scenes and like what it took to get to the place that I'm at and these
absolutely.
transparent conversations. So I thought, why not give it a try? This
Yeah,
is something like I said on Bloom TV, I've always wanted to have my own morning show, but like I've had no networks reaching out to give me one. So I thought I'm
yeah,
going to make my own show. And I wanted to call it Wake and Bake with Alexia, but I thought we'll hold on that. So Galavision, and I try to have a coffee
yeah.
on every episode. I try
Nice,
to
nice.
incorporate a Spanish word of the
I
day,
love it.
and just try to talk about things in my life and topics that are relevant to what I'm going through, and
That's
just
beautiful.
be honest. But it's even I get like 100 views so far per video,
Mm.
but it's on YouTube, which is nice that people can visualize and then also listen.
Yeah,
So for me, it's become this passion project that like I treat it like Good Morning America. I do it in the studio, produce it,
yeah.
put it out, and regardless of how many viewers there are, it's just important to me to be able to put that out there.
Absolutely. And the beautiful thing about podcasting is you don't have to sell your soul to
Mhm.
have your own media outlet,
That's
right?
such a good point. I love
And I
that.
love that the fact that you can fully take control over the content you put out there. And a lot of podcasting reels are going even more viral than any TV
I
show that's out
know.
there. Like most people consume media these days through social media. So it's so powerful to be able to just kind of create your own little world in the media space.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. What would you say is like the long-term vision for just everything that you have going on? Because you also have the entrepreneurial side of what it is that you do. You market and sell like different products and everything as well. And that's a lot of what you're known for. But what would you say long term? Where's Alexia 10 years from now?
Jesus, I haven't thought about that in a minute, but I think, like you said, building a media outlet, kind of building a media empire where I can connect with audiences and have authentic storytelling that people get excited and inspired by, and to be able to do that every day and just like wake up and do that. I mean, I remember sitting in my cubicle crying, feeling so frustrated and being like, God, I wish one day I could just do what I want full time. And I started with the Home Shopping Network, which is actually based in St. Pete. A lot of people don't
Mhm.
realize that. And I got in with them. When I moved to St. Pete, I was like, I need to find a way to get them to notice me. And it was kind of interesting. I've never really told this story, but I'll tell you. I got the in because I did some researching. You got to, as an entrepreneur, you got to be resourceful.
Of course.
I found the talent contacts info for HSN Talent.
Mhm.
And I emailed her and was like, hey, I'm going to send you, or no, I called her secretary and said, hey, I'm trying to send her an award. What's her email address?
Mhm.
Got the email address, sent her my reel. And she's like, here, I'm going to forward you to the auditions
Wow.
group, whatever. And then I got my in-person audition and I got in. But it was like, I got sneaky because I tried to go through like sending a videotape. Nobody looked at it.
Of course.
I was like, what do I do? hey, we're presenting an award from Florida State University to your director of talent. Got her email, got in. And then thank God I started with them during COVID. So everything was from home. So it was all Skyped. So it was really interesting to be able to like learn that way and like set up my own studios, like
I
my
love it.
early stages of a podcast.
Yeah,
But being able to like be on TV from home during the pandemic was really interesting.
that's
And then
incredible.
now we're back in studio. So it's really cool to be able to be on air. And like
Yeah.
the other day, Juliana Rancic was next to me, like Kathy Ireland, like these super big celebrities who are coming to St. Pete to
Mhm.
work on the Home Shopping Network. So that's an outlet that I've been so grateful to be connected with,
Mm.
but I don't work full time with them. I'm like a freelance.
Of
So
course.
the fact that I get to do that, then also do my content as the Gala Life, and then also do like PR marketing projects that I do through my agency.
Yeah.
It's everything I've ever
Yeah. That's
wanted.
beautiful.
So I want to keep that going in 5 years. Maybe, I mean, my goal would be to have the Galavision TV show
Yeah.
or, who knows, TV is going to be obsolete in the near
Yeah.
future, but
Mm.
keeping it going, working with brands on the podcast more frequently and
Yeah.
just telling people stories and connecting.
Yeah, sure. I love the fact that you brought up just how you got resourceful. And I think this is the one missing piece for a lot of entrepreneurs. You can go to a Wharton business school, you can go and all of this, but at the end of the day, that knowledge isn't necessarily going to help you when it comes to resourcefulness.
Right.
Just getting scrappy, getting out there, just by any means necessary, having that grit, that attitude where you're going to figure out a way, right?
Exactly.
And I love that you pretty much embody that. Now, in terms of entrepreneurship, how have you navigated? This is something that I'm really passionate about talking about, is just navigating as an entrepreneur, because you don't have a boss telling you, hey, you have to show up at work at this time. There's no set structure per se. You have to create your own structure. There's no system to kind of put yourself into where now you're just following all the rules. You have to be your own boss. You have to discipline yourself. You have to get resourceful. There's no guaranteed paycheck. Why in the world would someone even subscribe themselves to that? Like, how has that journey been with you, just figuring it out? Like when you have to pay certain bills and come up with something out of nothing.
Yeah.
How has that process worked for you?
I love that you mentioned that because people don't consider that. And you're right. You can have a master's or the best degree, but if you don't have that like street smart, that
Yeah.
hunting ability to get resourceful where you need to be and like not cut corners, but not be afraid to reach out to people and seek help and connections when you need it. And I think there's that level of ego that needs to be shed,
Yes.
which for me, it took a moment another moment of transparency. I started my own business because I was fired from an agency that I was working at after the Dolly. When I was working at the Dolly, their PR agency came to me and said, hey, we want to hire you. We know you come from a PR background. Why are you working $40K at the Dolly Museum for this nonprofit? I mean, the pay wasn't there, but I got to like work with Dolly paintings all day. So I got poached by this corporate entity that said, we're going to pay you double the value, whatever. Went to their company. It was from day one. I could tell it was toxic culture. It was horrible.
Mhm.
They were having me travel too much, like just milking the cow. And then I went away and I was still doing HSN and things on the side. So I don't think they liked that. Long story short, went away for a weekend, come back, they fired me.
Wow.
And I was like, you took me from the Dolly. I was very happy and you grabbed me out of there. Didn't like that I wasn't like sucking your D and now I'm
Yeah.
let go.
Yeah.
So that moment was the lowest point of vulnerability that I think I ever had because I thought, what do I do? Like, I've never been fired. I was like the other agency I was at, I was there for 6 years and then I went to the Dolly and then, so that was earth shaking. And that was when I was like, what the F am I going to do about my salary? Like, how am I going to pay bills? And thankfully my fiance at the time was like, I got you for a little bit. Like, it's not like he's making $1 million. I mean, he's 30, so he's doing what he can, but he said, I have your back. But if you want to take this opportunity to do your own thing instead of trying to find another agency job, like, why don't you do that?
Yeah.
And that's when I said, you're right. And I let go of the ego, emailed everybody on my contact list. And because of one guy that I built a relationship with, he gave me my first client. And through him, I got an airline, like a Canadian airline that I was representing, their PR and their social, a couple of hotels, travel brands. We're kicking off with Visit Jamaica next week on our social media.
Love it.
And it was because I was able to like reach out and say, hey, I need help. Like, what can I do? These are my abilities. And like, I can get scrappy and do whatever you need me to do. And that really helped a lot and has helped me become the entrepreneur that I am today.
I love it.
And I mean, I've had moments. Like I've had clients, I had one client that didn't pay me, worked with her in a spa in St. Pete.
Gosh.
She hired me. I did an event for her for free. She said, I love what you did. I'd love to hire you to do my PR. Worked with her for a month. We had a contract, sent her the first invoice, and she just ghosted me.
Crazy.
A couple grand when worked
Yeah.
my ass off for her because I was
Yes.
so excited to have a local female like
Yeah.
business to work with. And so, I thought, what do I do? I didn't get paid that
Yeah.
month. Like, so, but what I did learn is that if you put yourself out there and you
Mm.
put the projects out there, the work will come, the
Yeah.
money will come to you. If
Yeah.
you are working hard and really authentically putting yourself out there, the universe has its way of like sending that to you.
Of course.
So I think that's one thing that people limit themselves because they think that like, what if I can't make the money this month or what am I going to do? You just have to take that first step and not be afraid to do it. And if you need to Uber here and there, if you need to do things
Absolutely.
like that,
Yeah.
like you shouldn't let pride stop you.
Very true. Very
No.
true. Yeah, I think that's what holds a lot of people back is the fact that they're not willing to put their pride to the side and say, you know what, let me find other ways to get resourceful and make some money so that I can pay my bills and not
Yeah.
have all of this stress because entrepreneurship, it can be very uncertain. You can have dark moments where you're just not sure where the next dollar is going to come from, or you may
Yep.
have clients that screw you over.
Yep.
And by the way, if you are considering screwing over a podcaster or a YouTuber or any influencer, micro, and be careful what you do because a lot of what happens in the dark comes to the light.
I know.
And you just may be the story on someone's next viral reel. So
Right.
I just want to clear the air on
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
And I like to keep it classy. I don't ever like to
Of
like
course.
call
Of
names
course.
out or
Absolutely. Same here.
I've been wanting to so badly
Yeah.
because this happened a few months ago, but my friends have told me, hey, your platforms are very positive. Like you
Yeah.
should keep
Yeah.
it that way.
Most definitely.
But inside, I'm just like, I want to call small claims court.
Yeah.
Who's got
Yeah.
time for that?
Seriously. Yeah. But you're starting to see a lot of like, I'm not sure if you heard about the whole Cat Williams stuff and, his
Kind of.
podcast. He just kind of brought a lot of stuff to the light
Okay.
and you're starting to see that more and more. And a lot of the stuff you spoke about, like your experience in the entertainment space, a lot of this stuff now that
yeah.
people have their own media outlets, it's starting to come to the light. So I think that's another beautiful element of just podcasting.
That's
And
so true.
yeah, it's just all of these things that typically would happen in the dark. Now they're getting exposed, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing.
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot of people have been screwed over for so many years, just desperately wanting to pursue their dream and kind of losing themselves, losing their soul in the process. So
100%.
now on the topic of travel, you're also known for your expertise when it comes to travel, food. I'm a big foodie and I'm a
Yeah.
big traveler. So a lot of my brand is specifically around travel. And when I travel, I always like to go to some of the best places to eat. And for you, what has your experience been? What has been like the best place you've traveled to so far? Anywhere on the bucket list
Oh, wow.
and anything that you would offer to the audience in terms of just food and how it correlates with just traveling around the world as well.
Yeah. So I think I'm so thankful that PR experience that I had, like, was international. Like when I was planning press trips for hotel clients, I was curating like a whole weekend itinerary for like Vogue magazine, like writers from these top outlets, Condé Nast, Travel and Leisure. And it was my duty to spend the weekend with them at whatever client's hotel I was with or whatever destination, curating this like luxe itinerary with different aspects to showcase every part of a place or a destination. So that I think was really great training. And also was just something I always felt passionate about growing up. I felt very connected to Anthony Bourdain. I always like just wanted to
He's
be
the GOAT. Yeah.
him. I just loved him. So
Yeah.
starting in travel PR, I got to like kind of start doing those things and really explore so many facets of travel and connecting with cultures and showing the importance of like why it's so important to see how dynamic a destination is
Of
from
course.
its slums or its poor sides to, the luxe
Yeah.
experiences. So I think it's really important anytime you're planning a trip to like mesh the two
Absolutely.
parts of a
I
destination
agree.
to see the real authentic like local culture. And then of course like the Instagram worthy
Yeah.
side of it.
Yeah.
I'm from Miami originally, so that's a whole shit show in itself.
Mm.
And I was there for my bachelorette. And we had quite an experience, but it just showed me how superficial that place has become.
Yeah. I had an experience recently. I don't want to, throw any shade on
Yeah.
Miami.
Oh, I'm always shading
Yeah.
Miami. I'm always, last time I was
Yeah.
there was in
Yeah.
we went for the 1 year of my bachelorette and it was like,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's icky, but I mean, I'll always have love for Miami, not
Of
gonna
course.
lie.
Of course.
I need like a Miami crazy weekend every now
Yeah.
and then. I
Yeah.
like hit
I can relate as a New Yorker too. This
Yeah,
3 or 4 days, you take it in doses and you come back home
exactly.
like, yes.
I need to go hit the
Yeah. Yeah,
nightclub, go to
exactly.
space
Yeah.
for 24 hours type of thing. But yeah, I mean, I was just telling you, I love living in Tampa Bay and
Yeah.
I'm so ingrained in this destination right now that I think my blinders have been put on. But somewhere, my family's from Cuba and Spain.
Mm,
So Dad he's from Spain. So
nice.
I grew up going to Spain a lot when I was
Oh,
younger. So I love, that part of Europe and Dali and all of that. That all comes from the Spanish
of
culture. So
course.
I think Spain's a really interesting and unique place to visit because it's so large and
Absolutely.
vast, and there's so many different identities and personalities throughout the country. And not only with like the Catalan and the
Hmm.
Basque and all of that, but there's the beach. You have San Sebastian, which is
Yep.
like a one of the top food destinations in the world. So I think there's just so much to do in the art and the culture and the
Yeah.
people. I love Italy. I'm so partial to Italy. We were going to go to Lake Como for our honeymoon, but we decided not to even do a honeymoon. We
Yeah.
haven't even done one yet.
Yeah.
But I loved the passion of Italy,
Of
the
course.
food culture in Italy there as well. The fact that they love just highlighting basic ingredients,
Mm,
and then that makes like for the most epic dish you've ever had.
sure.
Some of my favorite, I guess I'll just share like Tampa Bay favorite
Mm,
spots. Often Alelo is one of my top
mm,
spots in St. Pete Beach. So St. Pete, if you're ever in downtown, visit Alelo. It's Mediterranean, so I get some of that Spanish vibes, and they have really good cocktails. Um, Also Tampa Bay, Il Ritorno, Italian food, so delicious. I just clearly love Italian. But again, I think the most important thing is when you're exploring any destination, any trip, finding the local little aspects of a place, like where are the mom and pop sandwich shops
for
or
sure.
the croqueterias, or, where can you find these places that maybe aren't on social media?
Hmm.
And then a blend of like, okay, a few really eye
I
catching,
agree.
maybe the food isn't going to be great
Yeah.
spots, but you get that
Yeah.
Instagram shot.
Yeah, most definitely. I can relate to all of that you're saying because I've been in the luxury travel space for over a decade.
Oh,
So
wow.
I've booked some of the most incredible hotels, resorts. I've brought so many amazing people around the world to a lot of these luxe experiences. And I would always book like a few days before just to get a very local experience. I'll
Yes.
get an Airbnb in the neighborhood. I remember going to Rio de Janeiro for the Olympics back in 2016,
Oh,
and
wow.
I booked an Airbnb in La Paz, I believe was the community, and I rode the subway, had the street food and
Yeah.
all of that, and you just can't replace
The
that.
favelas.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
But
It's an experience.
that's like incredible for someone to see that and to witness that. And like, that's how you grow as a person.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think you just become more cultured.
Yeah.
Yeah, more cultured, more grounded, more interesting as
And
well.
accepting
Yeah,
to others. And like my
of
husband,
course.
when we had met, he had never left the country
Mm,
ever. So the first time he had left the country, we went to Dominican Republic, and he just stayed on all inclusive, which was fine. But then the first time he went to Europe, we went to Switzerland for that trip I had told you. And he was like, I stayed in an Airbnb in Zurich by myself for a night, and there was a Finnish guy in the pub with me, and we like
nice.
partied all. And he like grew so much from this one night
I love it.
alone in Zurich. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's so cool. Yeah, that's amazing. Now, as we start to get ready to bring this in for a landing, I could talk to you forever,
I
but I mean,
know,
there's so much
right?
we can talk
It's
about.
been like 5 minutes.
Yeah, we're gonna have to run it back for a part two eventually. But I wanted to ask you if you could have done it all over again, and let's just say just taken a different route, or maybe alleviate yourself of some of the challenges that you maybe encounter that you didn't have to go through if you knew better, what would you have done differently? Like, let's take you back even to your teenage years.
Oh God, I wish I could talk to baby Alexia, 15-year-old Alexia. I would tell her to chill the F out, like
Yeah.
stop trying to grow up so fast, because I really wanted to be 25 so badly and like rush the process. And I so wish I would have allowed myself to be more of like a kid and a teenager and a child
Yeah.
instead of a grown ass woman by like 16. So that is a big aspect that I wish. I wish I also maybe would have stuck a little harder with the singing and acting, because I really like it was myself that I self sabotaged and was like, I just can't do this anymore. I just threw it all away, and like not threw it away, but I think it had I given myself more of a chance
Mm,
to do that and be vulnerable in that way, it could have been something else. But I think also not being like putting all these pressures on me to go I mean, go to college. I think everyone should go to college, but like to get the master's degree, I wanted to do that. But like in the grand scheme, I don't think it's
You didn't
made
need
me
it.
that much
Yeah.
more of an appealing candidate.
Mhm.
I do think for myself, it made me learn so much and gave me more direction in my career. So for me, it was great. But I do think just like people who are out there, like, I need to get my college degree, I need to get the master's, like, it's fine. You don't need to put those pressures.
Of
You
course.
don't have to finish school in 4 years. There's all this like, I think it was because I grew up in that like private school. It was like that scholastic academia. You have to go to school
Yeah.
4 years, then you have to go to grad school, and then you have to start your career right after that. It doesn't have to be like that.
Absolutely.
But I also think maybe making sure to get some time to get structure and education and learning, because I'm so thankful for that structure and the ability that I had a career with an agency, because all of that is the
Yeah.
ability, the way I'm able to have a structure like you talked about as an entrepreneur. I know how to build my day and create like tasks and pillars
Very
of,
true.
what to do because I was given that structure by
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah.
So it's really hard. I admire these youngsters
Mhm.
who start their own businesses straight from college. So I'm like, how do you know the resources to put into play and the processes and the standards of
Of course.
operation? Like I just took a USB and took everything from that agency and
Mhm.
used all those forms and documents to create my own forms and
Yeah.
documents, because how else?
Most definitely.
You have to like not copy, but it's okay to take from somebody else's learnings and
Absolutely.
experiences and then apply your own twist and
Yeah.
branding and create it.
Yeah.
But I think making sure to take the time to learn, but then not being afraid to start. Like maybe starting a little sooner. I wish I would have started with the Gala group and
Mhm.
all these projects that I've started. I started at like 29, 28 was when I really started going hard. So now I'm 31. I wonder if I had started at 25,
Yeah, for
where
sure.
things would have been. I went to school and grew up with this influencer called the Naughty Fork. I'm sure you've seen her. She's
Mhm. Yeah.
huge. And she started on Instagram. Like people would be like, what are you doing? Like taking pictures of food. And now she's massive. And it's like she started doing something she really loved and just to do it and
Mhm.
putting herself out there, and she stuck with it. And like, look
Yeah.
where it is now.
Yeah.
So I
Most
think
definitely.
just taking that first step,
Yeah.
getting out of your comfort zone, not being afraid to put yourself out there, and getting rid of imposter syndrome.
Absolutely.
So important.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have imposter
Yeah.
syndrome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like when we're on Bloom, I'm
Abs
like, what am I doing here? Like,
Yeah.
who wants to listen to me?
Yeah.
But, it's
Yeah.
getting out of that.
Absolutely. I think everybody struggles with that to a certain degree. Every now and then I'll find myself in big rooms, and the movers and shakers, and it's like, what am I doing? But I have to snap out of that. Like, no,
You are the first
yeah.
shaker.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it wasn't always like that, right? Initially just working and then having a lot of insecurities, growing, like I grew up in the ghetto, so for me, growing up in poverty, growing up in the ghetto, like there was a lot of, there were a lot of limiting beliefs, a lot of insecurities, and I've kind of had to build myself up over the years and validate my own self-worth. And that's a whole process in itself. And,
Yeah.
I wanted you to shed a little bit of light on, just this space of influencing, whether you're a mainstream influencer, a micro influencer, we're sort of like the pioneers for this next generation, if you will.
Yep.
So most kids these days, you ask them, what would it want to be? It's very common to hear them say, I want to be a YouTuber,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Or things like that. Yeah.
Wow.
So like my kids want to be YouTubers now.
Oh, I
Yeah.
guess I've
So,
never asked.
yeah. And I'm like legit considering letting them start their own little YouTube channels
Yeah.
because this is the future. This is very well a career path for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And there's so many different avenues you can take it. You can go the entrepreneurial side. You can be a brand ambassador. You can be a TV personality like yourself.
Yeah.
There's so many angles you can take it. But what advice would you give to a young person? And what are the aspects of this influencing and micro influencing space that you love the most?
I hate the term influencer, and I've come to like realize I have to accept it, but I
Of course.
hate it. I don't know why. I just feel like it sounds superficial. That's why
Yeah.
I lean into storyteller, because I think it encompasses all that we do,
Mhm.
because our influence is value.
Yep.
And I actually talked about this on my last podcast, that I was reading a statistic in Adweek that said that influencers are now 78% more likely to drive decision making in audiences versus a conventional ad. So
Absolutely.
these businesses that are putting millions of dollars into ads, we have the influence even more so with
course.
these micro influencers that you can quite frankly pay half. And, so that's a whole other aspect of the influencer value. But I think, when I was in the PR side of things, planning press trips, that was like 2011, 2012. I started planning influencer project. I came up with the idea. I brought it up to my client, like, hey, I want to do something called an influencer trip.
Mm,
And it was like, what? And it was basically, I started seeing what Revolve was doing, where they do like Revolve around the world.
yeah.
Now every brand does it. But I was like, I like what they're doing. They're bringing a group of influencers to a destination and they're having different brands pop up
Mhm.
and you're capturing all of the share of voice and, aligning audiences. And it's just like an immersive experience where you do all these fun things. So I crafted a press trip at a resort in Mexico called Unico 2087. It's an amazing, all inclusive. I actually just went back in November as a writer. So
Nice.
it was like I used to PR the hotel and now I just was hosted as a writer. So it was like the most full circle moment.
I love it.
I remember looking back as a PR girl being like, God, I wish I could be the writer on this trip. And
Yeah.
so, anyways, I brought up this idea of like, okay, we should bring influencers and have like a swimwear brand pop up and a sunscreen brand pop up and fun boy floaties. And it was this resort in Mexico. So it all aligned to that. And I met all of these influencers that we brought. And one of them, her name's Tour de Lust. She has like a couple million followers. She had just left her job at Macy's. She was doing like Macy's analytics, like digital side of things to start her platform. And she's like, I don't know, like, I'm just going for it. And this other girl, her handle is Professional Traveler. She had left Google to
Mhm.
start her handle. And now I'm constantly getting her ads in my feed. She has like an amazing course. And I have a lot of friends who have purchased her course. So it's crazy. I spent the weekend with a couple of influencers who are now like the top influencers in the world.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting with them and then just like expressing how scared they were and vulnerable that they're giving up these conventional career paths to dive into something that was so new and unheard of at the time. It
Absolutely.
was totally different. And again, they stuck to it. They did it. They kind of put everybody out and did their own thing, like what they were passionate about. And that's what you have to do. You have to
I agree.
put those blinders on, listen to what brings you joy and happiness, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to be the most sustainable career.
Yeah.
In 10 years, you can't do
Abs-
something you don't love.
Very true.
So listening to what it is that you're passionate about, and I'm not saying the only way is entrepreneurship,
Mhm.
like, but don't be afraid to apply your passions to a job that you love and that you can actually feel like excited to wake up every day and do that job.
Yeah.
But if you are seeking to be an entrepreneur or creator, I think not being afraid to take that first step,
Mhm.
just tune everyone out and do your own thing and do the research,
Yeah.
study. There's so many, you don't have to go to school conventionally, like YouTube. I've learned I can fly my husband's drone now and I learned it all through
I love it.
YouTube.
Yeah.
The way I edit on Adobe or all of my editing things, I learned that all through YouTube
That's
videos.
amazing, yeah.
So
To university.
yeah, right. Don't be afraid to just get scrappy, be resourceful
100%.
and do the research and then,
Yeah.
put it out there,
I love that.
execute.
Yeah, I love that. The thing I love about this space, I was also very conflicted about the term influencer because I think you have two types of influencers. You have people who are like social media popular,
Yeah.
but then you have real influencers. And I was one of those people that I was more of a grassroots, and that's how I started as a grassroots influencer, meeting people face to face, thousands of people from all around the world, having success as an entrepreneur, and then transitioning into like the social media world.
Okay.
But the one thing that I love about this whole influencer space, if you will, is the fact that you can't really fail at it unless you quit.
That's such a good point. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. So like even if it takes you 20 years, the only way you could possibly fail in this space is if you quit.
Yeah.
So even if you have to go and work a full-time job and 9 to 5 on your job and then 5 to 10 on your side hustle
Yep.
or just this influencer space, just go for it. Go for it. If your
Exactly.
heart is leading you in this direction, why not? So
That's how I started because
yeah,
I was working on the agency side full time. And then after work, I'd plug out and then do my content and my
exactly.
blog posts and start there. And don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely. Now, out of everything we've spoken about and every aspect of your life, what would you say you're most proud of? Out of everything. And it doesn't have to be like one specific thing. Maybe it can just be how you handled certain situations or how you persevered through certain things. But what would you say, what's the first thing that comes to mind in terms of something that you're really proud of along your journey?
I'm really proud of the fact that I was able to leave Miami where I had a really deep like history, family ties, a lot of connections. Like if I wanted to start a career there, I easily could have like knocked on Dad J's door and
Yeah.
he could have pulled any contacts. I left that and then came to St. Pete where I knew nobody and started a life and a community and a platform and lived my dream that I mean, I'm not saying I couldn't have done it somewhere else, but I think that like you, the fact that I was able to get grassroots with it
Mm.
when I moved here, the first thing I did was putting myself out there, meeting people in person, connecting how I could. And then I started the St. Pete Gals community
Yeah.
because I was like, hey, the only way I'm doing what I'm doing now is because of those people who gave me the leg up and who shook my
100%.
hand and opened doors. And those, it's mainly a female community, no shade on the
Oh,
guys.
yeah. Shout out to the
A
ladies.
lot of like females that gave me that opened the doors for me in ways that I just like would have never thought possible on my own without having like mommy or daddy's help. And especially in a city where I knew nobody or nothing about this place. So I'm really proud of that. And then the fact that I was able to turn getting fired from a company into starting my own company. And to this day, the lady who fired me likes my LinkedIn post about, I just blocked her 2 days ago because I was like, F you, Barbara. Look, literally liking my post of like my clients that I'm posting about clients that I'm working with, projects that I'm doing. And I'm like, what? Like, she was jealous of me. I think she saw that I was going to run that agency and was like, we got to let her go. And I just remember feeling so devastated. Like, I thought we were tight, Barbara. Like, I thought I was like your protege and we were going to like kick ass together. And then they just fired me.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Barbara became someone's motivation.
yes.
Yeah. The haters be the motivators.
Exactly.
I love it. Yeah. So no, that's really awesome. Just the fact that you've been able to persevere, like even when you've been knocked down time and time again, and there's so many different times in your life that you can kind of reference that you still persevered when it was all said and done.
Thank you.
If this was your very last interview, God forbid, but if this was your very last interview, what would you want to share with the world? If there's any piece of advice, and it doesn't even have to be around business or anything like that, even if it's just life, what would be the last piece of advice you would want to give?
Do you like just do what it is that fuels you and makes you passionate and happy every day, but do it in a way that brings other people joy and positivity. And, it costs 0 cents to be nice to someone and to just smile at someone. So I think the fact that I'm able to inspire people with the work that I do and I get people reaching out like, oh my God, you've given me motivation to start this or whatever, that really is like, wow, that fulfills everything. It's more valuable than any paycheck, any campaign. So I think doing you and doing those things that your heart guides you to is most important. Because if you start like not listening to your gut and pushing down those feelings, it's going to turn into like resentment for yourself. And honestly, I think depression, like your body will manifest those beliefs. And, like this necklace that I'm wearing, it was a collaboration with a local jewelry designer here in Tampa, Jessica Santander Designs. And she came to me and said, hey, I want to design a piece of jewelry with you so that people can wear like a bit of inspiration. And that was so cool as a creator to have like a tangible product that I could help design.
That's beautiful.
So we created this piece based off of an amethyst that my abuelo gave me. And it was an amethyst he found in Brazil. And he gave it to me when I was little. And I always looked at the amethyst and was like, this is brings me power and confidence. And so we translated that into this necklace and it sold out, did amazing. But the other day I had a lady approach me and say, I bought the necklace because my mom passed away and she had your birthday. And we released this on my birthday.
Wow.
And just like the fact that I could connect to someone on that level. And I was just like, okay, that's it. Like I could die happy. I was able to use my story, things that fulfill me, put it out there in the world. And then somebody took inspiration or connection from that. Like that's all I need.
I love that.
So
if there's anything that you would want Alexia to be remembered for, what would be your legacy? What would you want to be remembered for?
I think I wanted to say being a lady in the streets, but a freak at the buffet. That's my favorite quote. But just empowering and inspiring, being able to connect with someone and being able to use my story as a way to fuel somebody else's dream or motivation is what would make me the most happy.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I'm so happy that I've provided a platform for you to be able to fulfill that. And
thank you so much.
This has been incredible, Alexia. Like I said, I can talk to you all day. Like there's so many different rabbit holes we could have gone down.
I think so. And I need you on the Gala podcast.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah. And hopefully we can get you for a part 2.
Yes. Oh my God, anytime.
But this has been great. I appreciate you even taking the trip all the way from St. Pete over here. And
no big deal.
Yeah, this was an incredible interview. And just whatever it is that you embark on, I know that you're going to be big. And that was, there's so many elements of your story that I wanted to capture, but I also just, I know a shining star when I see one, and I just can tell that you're going in a direction that's going to be really, really big. And I'm so grateful that I caught you at this phase of your journey. And you're already a big deal, but I caught you in this phase of your journey, and I'm so happy that I did. So thank you so much for coming here and gracing our audience with your presence and your story. It's truly, incredible. And I look forward to hearing some more about it. So
Thank you, Josh. This was
absolutely.
so fun. I'm
Absolutely.
honored. And like the fact that I get to chat with you and that you considered me for this is amazing. So
Definitely.
inspired by you. And
Definitely.
cheers to
Definitely.
you.
Yeah. Cheers. Absolutely. And there we have it, guys. The Journey Podcast with the one and only Miss Alexia. Oh, we have Mrs. Alexia Gonzalez, right? And, feel free to tune in to the very next episode coming your way. And we have a lot of incredible guests. Make sure you subscribe and share this video to someone who can potentially get value from it. Take care, guys, and we'll be seeing you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
That was
Absolutely.
fun.